what was Henrik Larsson like as a player to manage?
Henrik was really brilliant footballer. Brilliant footballer. Brave as a lion, could score you goals. And I'm delighted to say that even in the autumn of his career, he went to Barcelona, helped them win the Champions League. Even though he was maybe not a regular all the time there because they had some Ronaldinho and big players there, but he made a difference in the European Cup final coming on. It was against Arsenal, wasn't it? I think,
Yeah.
And then he goes to Manchester United and scores goals in the Premier League at 34 years of age. So I'm delighted because there was this idea that he could only do it up in Scotland. He was a brilliant performer, terrific. One of his best ever games was in the UEFA Cup final against Porto, which we lost 3-2 in extra time in 2003. He was a brilliant talent. Again, incredibly brave, going and would score you a goal, and just terrific to work with, I should say.
How did you cope with the pressures and the demand at Celtic? You mentioned your upbringing in a Northern Ireland, being a Catholic as well, and everything that comes with it in terms of your personality and makeup and upbringing. In terms of being the manager of Celtic, did you feel pressure at all? And how did you cope with that?
Of course, yes, because I don't think you're really prepared. I should have been in many aspects. I'd say should have been. I knew what Celtic was all about. I knew, obviously, from being Northern Ireland, if you're brought up a Catholic, chances are you were supporting Celtic. If you're a Protestant, chances are you're supporting Rangers. So I knew all about the Celtic-Rangers rivalry, things that you see. But I'm not really sure now, even now as I think and talking to you, I'm not sure that I was really prepared for the scrutiny that you're put under. I mean, I used to think that football was about the back pages, but when Celtic and Rangers are up there in Scotland, it's not just the back pages, it's not just the second back pages. You could go back to the middle pages of any given red top, and you find yourself, geez, this is incredible. So scrutiny. And not just a match, not just a pre-match, but almost a daily scrutiny about what's happening. And they say that Barcelona and Real Madrid have the same problems all the time, but nothing seemed to prepare you for that. So would I have changed my mind about taking the job? Not really. It was a natural privilege to becoming manager of Celtic, but they'd been in the doldrums for quite some considerable time. So I felt as if I could turn it round. Well, I was hoping that I could turn it round, obviously, and lucky enough that I was able to do so. But again, I take your point entirely. I'm not really sure that I was prepared for the sort of over scrutiny that a manager or some of the players would have had during that time.
Does that get exhausting, Martin? Because you mentioned in a different sense, Madrid, Barcelona. I remember reading Guardiola's book, and he said in terms of the political issues in Catalonia, it gets exhausting being the manager of Barcelona. Did you ever feel that at Celtic, that it can be exhausting of the demand? And you mentioned the newspapers, and I'm intrigued to hear if that impacted your mental health at all, or anything along those lines.
Okay, a good point. The most important thing is not to allow exhaustion to take place. You can be exhausted the minute the final game of the season is over. You maybe think to yourself, listen, I'll get a week in Portugal or something and recharge. But you cannot allow yourself to be exhausted. And I mean this really, particularly up at Celtic. I think this applies to a job anywhere, but you can't allow yourself to be exhausted, because the minute you start thinking it, you will be it. You'll be exhausted. You will find reasons not to do some things. You've got to. I just feel the one thing that I did have. I felt I had two things. I had a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. I've had that, all my time. So I cannot let any of those things weigh. Bad results can knock you. Of course they can. They can severely damage you if you. But and I must admit that this seems a contradiction, is that I did mull over defeats for a lot longer than perhaps I should have done. But the minute let's say Saturday you got beaten in a game up in Scotland, by Tuesday I had to forget about it. So I had a long weekend of mulling over things. And I'm fortunate, I'm one of those managers who takes it home with me as well too. I can't leave it to the side. Never been able to do that. But by the time that come round again, I'm ready to go. And you have to be really up for it. So I didn't allow myself to be exhausted by the time. Plenty of time to be exhausted, as I said to you, when you're lying on a beach somewhere in Mallorca or Portugal for a week or so or something like that. That's fine.
Did you, with that position at Celtic, did you have to kind of take your emotion away from the role? Just because obviously you mentioned that growing up you were a Celtic fan. Did you have to kind of take that emotional element out? Because, you know, if you make decisions with emotion, they could obviously jeopardize the way things plan out. I'm just intrigued on your leadership and management there.
It's a very, very good point. It's a very good point indeed. Maybe involuntarily I might have been doing that, but I never felt during the time. I did make emotional decisions. You know, I absolutely did. My assistant manager called John Robertson, a brilliant footballer. John used to call it gut instinct, and you know, I made a lot of gut instinct decisions on things, and it wasn't one of those where I felt as if. And I have said this before, and it's worth repeating. I never made a right decision in the sense, when I made a decision, I tried to make it right. If that was the case, I couldn't. There's no such thing. I never felt as if there's a right or wrong decision, unless it's something absolutely staring you straight in the face. But overall, no, I did made a lot of gut instinct decisions, and I would call them possibly emotional in many aspects. I tried many a time to divorce myself from that and just step back again and think about it again. But it sometimes used to feel as if, I'm getting involved in that. And some of my managerial decisions, like going to manage Sunderland, for instance, that was totally emotional. So, I wanted to go heart ruling ahead. You know, you look at Sunderland, you know, and the team hadn't been good for quite a number of years, but I thought, I'm wanting to manage it because they're my boyhood team. In that sense. So yes, so I have to say, so I don't know whether I disappoint you in my answer, but I did make a lot of the most emotional decisions.
Please do me a massive favor by clicking the subscribe button now below. It helps the channel grow. The bigger the channel, the bigger the guests, and it's free.